Commander Wu Jin looked out at the stars through the bridge. Window of the stellar dawn, the research ship moved slowly through space, heading toward the Veil Nebula. He had been excited about this mission for months. The Galactic Coalition had chosen his crew to study strange energy readings near the nebula. It was a big honor for humans to lead such an important scientific mission. "Commander, we're getting close to the target area," said So Young from her navigation station. She was one of the best pilots Wu Jin had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she adjusted their course. "Good work, So Young. Take us in slowly," Wu Jin replied. He turned to look at the bridge crew. Besides So Young, there was Taeho at the engineering station and Haijin handling communications. All of them were human, but they weren't alone. On the ship, the stellar dawn carried representatives from 3 different alien species. The Galactic Coalition believed that mixed crews worked better than single-species teams. Wu Jin had tried his best to get along with the alien crew members, but something always felt wrong about their attitude toward humans. Admiral Krextel of the Vorthak Empire stood near the back of the bridge. He was tall and covered in gray scales with 4 arms and bright yellow eyes. The Vorthak were known as one of the strongest military powers in the galaxy. Krextel watched everything the human crew did with those cold yellow eyes. "Human Commander," Krextel said in his deep voice, "your species moves too slowly. We should have reached the target hours ago." Wu Jin kept his face calm, but inside he felt angry. The Vorthak always acted like humans were stupid or weak. "We're following safety protocols, Admiral. The nebula's energy fields could damage our ship if we rush." Krextel made a sound that might have been laughter. "Safety protocols? Your people are so afraid of everything." 2 other Vorthak officers stood with their admiral. They whispered to each other in their own language, looking at the human crew and making sounds that seemed like mockery. Wu Jin had learned enough Vorthak to understand some words, but he pretended not to hear them calling humans soft meat and short-lived. "Fools! Commander, I'm picking up something unusual," Haijin called out from her station. She pressed buttons on her communication panel, frowning at the readings. "There's a large object ahead, but it's not showing up on our main sensors. What kind of object?" Wu Jin asked, walking over to look at her screen. "I'm not sure. It's big, maybe the size of a small moon, but it's giving off energy patterns I've never seen before." Taeho looked up from his engineering controls. "The energy readings are off the charts, Commander. Whatever that thing is, it's incredibly powerful." Wu Jin felt his heart beat faster. This could be the discovery they had been looking for. "Take us closer, So Young, but keep us at a safe distance." As the stellar dawn moved forward, the mysterious object came into view on the main screen. It was not like anything any of them had ever seen. The object was perfectly round and black, but its surface seemed to move like liquid. Strange symbols glowed blue along its surface, pulsing in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "By the ancient stars," whispered one of the Calathi crew members. The Calathi looked like large insects with 6 arms and compound eyes. They were known for their scientific knowledge, but even they seemed confused by what they were seeing. "Admiral." Krextel pushed forward to get a better look at the screen. His yellow eyes grew wide, and he began speaking quickly in Vorthak to his officers. Wu Jin noticed that the alien's attitude had changed completely. The mockery was gone, replaced by something that looked like hunger. "Commander," So Young said quietly, "should we contact Coalition Command? This seems like something they need to know about right away." Wu Jin nodded. "Haijin, send a message to—" "No," Admiral Krextel said sharply. "We will study this object first. The Coalition can wait." "Admiral, our mission orders require us to report any major discoveries immediately," Wu Jin replied, trying to keep his voice respectful but firm. Krextel's 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Your mission orders come from the Coalition Council, where the Vorthak Empire has significant influence." "I am changing those orders." Wu Jin felt a cold fear in his stomach. This was not how Coalition missions were supposed to work. Each species had equal say in decisions, especially on scientific missions. But Krextel was acting like he owned the ship and everyone on it. "Taeho, Begin detailed scans of the object, Krextel commanded, ignoring Wu Jin completely. Taeho looked at Wu Jin, waiting for orders from his real commander. Wu Jin wanted to object, but he knew that fighting with the Vorthak could make things worse. Do it, but be careful. We don't know what that thing might do if we disturb it. 4. The next 6 hours, they studied the mysterious object. The more they learned, the more amazing it became. The object was incredibly old, maybe millions of years. It contained technology that was far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The energy it gave off could power entire star systems, but as they worked, Wu Jin noticed that the alien crew members were acting strange. They whispered to each other when they thought the humans weren't watching. Admiral Krextel spent a lot of time talking quietly with his officers and the other alien representatives. "Commander," So Young said during a break, "something doesn't feel right. The way they're looking at us, ... "I know," Wu Jin replied quietly. "Keep working, but stay alert." As the day went on, the tension on the bridge grew thicker. The humans did their jobs, but they all felt like they were being watched by predators. Admiral Krextel kept asking detailed questions about the object's power source and how it might be moved or controlled. "This artifact," Krextel said to his officers in Vorthak, not knowing that Wu Jin understood some of their language, "could make the Empire the strongest force in the galaxy. But we cannot let the humans report this to the Coalition." Wu Jin's blood turned cold. He realized that their mission had become something much more dangerous than scientific research. The aliens weren't planning to share this discovery with the Coalition. They wanted to take it for themselves. Late that night, while most of the crew was sleeping, Wu Jin quietly contacted his human officers. They met in a small storage room where they could talk without being overheard. "Something bad is going to happen," he told them. "I think the Vorthak are planning to steal the artifact." "What can we do?" asked Haijin. "They outnumber us, and their weapons are better than ours." "We follow our training," Wu Jin said. "We protect the mission and the Coalition's interests, no matter what." But even as he said those words, Wu Jin had a terrible feeling that it might already be too late. The way Admiral Krextal had been looking at them wasn't just hunger for the artifact's power. It was the look of someone who had already decided that the human crew was a problem that needed to be solved. The next morning would bring answers, but not the kind any of them wanted to hear. Wu Jin woke up to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his quarters, and the ship's computer was announcing some kind of emergency. He jumped out of bed and ran toward the bridge, but the corridors were darker than they should be. Many of the normal lights were off. When he reached the bridge, he found chaos. Smoke was coming from several control panels, and sparks flew from damaged systems. His crew was working frantically to fix problems, but everything seemed to be breaking. At once, "Commander!" So Young called out when she saw him. "The main engines just shut down. Life support is failing on 3 decks, and the communication system is completely dead. What happened?" Wu Jin demanded, looking around the bridge. Admiral Krextal and his officers were nowhere to be seen. Taeho looked up from his engineering station, his face grim. "It looks like sabotage, sir. Someone knew exactly which systems to hit to disable the ship without destroying it completely." Haijin was pulling panels off her communications equipment, trying to reach the damaged components inside. "They destroyed the main transmitter and backup systems. We can't call for help." Wu Jin felt his worst fears coming true. "Where are the Vorthak?" "Gone," said Dr. Sung Min, the ship's medical officer, as he entered the bridge. "I checked their quarters. All their personal belongings are missing. The Calathi and Rugelian representatives are gone too." "The escape pods," So Young said, checking her navigation screens. 3 pods launched about an hour ago, before the alarm started." Wu Jin closed his eyes for a moment, trying to stay calm. When he opened them, he saw his crew looking at him for orders, for hope, for some way out of this nightmare. "How bad is our situation?" Taeho consulted his readings. "Main engines are completely offline. The sabotage was very thorough. They destroyed key components that we can't repair without parts we don't have. Life support is running on emergency power, which gives us maybe a week if we're lucky." Navigation systems are damaged but working, So Young added. We're drifting toward the edge of the nebula, but very slowly. At this speed, it would take months to reach any inhabited system. And even if we could get there, we have no way to call for help, Hyjin said, still working. On the broken communication equipment, Security Chief Jiwoo arrived on the bridge, carrying a tablet with his report. I've checked the entire ship. The aliens took all the emergency food supplies and water recycling components. They left us with basic rations for maybe 5 days. Woojin sat down in his command chair, trying to think clearly despite the anger. Burning in his chest, the Vorthak had planned this perfectly. They had studied human technology during the mission, learned exactly how to disable their ship, and then abandoned them to die in space while they escaped with the location of the ancient artifact. They wanted us dead from the beginning, he said quietly. As soon as they realized how valuable that artifact was, they decided we were a threat to their plans. What do we do now? Asked Dr. Sung Dashmin. Woojin looked at each of his crew members. These were good people who had trusted the Coalition's promise of cooperation between species. They had done their jobs professionally and honestly, and this was how the galaxy had repaid them. We survive, he said firmly. We don't give up, and we don't make it easy for them. But Commander, So Young said gently, even if we fix some of these systems, we're still stranded. No one knows where we are. Then we make sure someone finds out what happened here, Woojin replied. Hyjin, can you build any kind of transmitter? From the broken parts? Hyjin examined the damaged equipment more carefully. Maybe a short-range distress beacon. It wouldn't reach any inhabited systems, but if a ship passed close enough. Do it, Taeho. I want you to focus on life support. We need to stretch our air and water as long as possible. I can shut down non-essential systems and seal off damaged sections, Taeho said. That might give us a few extra days. Ooh, inventory everything. Food, water, medical supplies, tools, anything that might help us survive longer. Already on it, sir. Dr. Sungmin stepped forward. Commander, I should mention that the stress and reduced oxygen will affect everyone's thinking. We need to stay mentally sharp if we're going to have any chance. Then we keep working, Woojin said. We don't sit around feeling sorry for ourselves. Everyone stays busy, everyone has a job to do. Over the next several hours, the crew worked together to assess their situation. It was even worse than they had first thought. The Vortex sabotage had been planned with cruel precision. They had left the humans with just enough resources to stay alive for a few days, but not enough to actually escape or call for help. Taeho managed to reroute power from the weapon systems and recreational areas to keep life support running. The ship felt colder now, and the air had a strange taste that meant the recycling systems were struggling. So Young calculated their drift pattern and found one small piece of hope. There's a slim chance we might pass near a shipping route in about 2 weeks. But that's if our calculations are perfect and if we're still alive by then. Hyjin worked for hours on the communication equipment, using parts from personal tablets and emergency equipment. I think I can build something, she said, but it will only work at very short range, a few thousand kilometers at most. Better than nothing, Woojin said. By the end of the first day, they had done everything they could with their limited resources. The ship was still dying slowly around them, but they had bought themselves some extra time. More importantly, they had not given up that night. As they gathered in the main corridor to save power, Jiwoo asked the question they were all thinking. Why did they do this? We were supposed to be working together, Dr. Sungmin shook his head sadly. I think we were naive. We believed that all species in the coalition were equal partners, but some of them never saw us that way. The Vorthak always treated us like we were stupid, So Young said. Like we didn't deserve to be in space. They called us short-lived. Fools in their language, Woojin admitted. I heard them talking. To them, we're just a young species that got lucky with technology. They never planned to share anything important with us. So what happens when they get back to coalition space? Hyjin asked. What will they tell people about what happened to us? Probably that we had an accident, Wu Jin said. Maybe they'll say the artifact was too dangerous and our ship was destroyed studying it. They'll be heroes for surviving and will be forgotten. The crew sat in silence for a while, thinking about families and friends who would never know the truth about what happened to them. But then Taeho spoke up. You know what makes me angry? They think we're weak. They think we'll just die quietly out here. Maybe we will die, So Young said. But we don't have to do it quietly. Wu Jin smiled for the first time since the crisis. Began, that's right, we're human. We don't give up easy. And if somehow we survive this, Wu added, the galaxy is going to learn something about what happens when you betray humans and leave them to die. They had no way of knowing that somewhere in the darkness of space, other humans had already learned that lesson. But for now, all they could do was survive one more day, and then another, and keep hoping that the universe might give them one more chance. Day 5 brought new problems. Wu Jin woke up with a headache that wouldn't go away, and when he looked around the small room where they all slept now, he could see that everyone was suffering. The air was getting thinner, and their bodies were starting to show the effects. Dr. Sung Min checked each crew member with his medical scanner. The readings were not good. Oxygen levels in our blood are dropping, he told Wu Jin quietly. We're all going to start feeling tired and confused. It will get harder to think clearly. How much time do we have? Wu Jin asked. Maybe 3 more days before we start losing consciousness. 5 days at most before ... Dr. Sung Min didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Wu Jin nodded and gathered everyone together. They had moved to the bridge permanently now, shutting down the rest of the ship to save power and air. The bridge felt cramped with all 6 of them living there, but it was their whole world now. I won't lie to you about our situation, Wu Jin told his crew. We're running out of time. But we're not giving up. Taeho had been working on the life support systems almost non-stop. His hands were cut from working with sharp metal pieces, and his clothes were dirty from crawling through maintenance tunnels. I've done everything I can think of, he said. I've sealed every leak I can find and shut down every system we don't absolutely need. But the main oxygen recycler is failing, and I can't fix it without replacement parts. Haijin looked up from her makeshift communication equipment. She had built something that looked like it was held together with tape and hope. The distress beacon is working, but I can only keep it running for a few hours at a time. We need to save power. Any response? Wu Jin asked. Nothing. We're too far from any normal shipping routes. So Young was studying their position on the navigation computers. We've drifted further than I calculated. The nebula's gravitational fields are pulling us in a direction I didn't expect. Is that good or bad? Zhiwu asked. I don't know yet. The nebula might hide us from sensors, but it might also damage any ship that tries to rescue us. Wu Jin sat down heavily in his command chair. Every movement took more effort now, and he could see the same exhaustion in his crew's faces. But he also saw something else: determination. Despite everything, they were still fighting. So Young, he said, tell us about the ocean voyagers. So Young smiled, understanding what he wanted. During their worst moments over the past few days, she had been telling stories about human explorers and adventurers from Earth's history. It helped keep their spirits up and reminded them that humans had survived impossible situations before. There was a Korean admiral named Yi Sun-sin, So Young began. He lived about 600 years ago. His enemies had more ships and more soldiers, but he never gave up. He used small, fast ships to defeat much larger fleets. How did he do it? Dr. Sung-min asked. He had heard this story before, but it seemed different now, more meaningful. He was smart, and he never fought the way his enemies expected. When they thought he would run, he attacked. When they thought he would attack, he disappeared. Most importantly, he never let his people lose hope, even when everything seemed hopeless. Taeho laughed, but it was a tired sound. I wish Admiral Yi was here now. Maybe he could figure out how to fix our oxygen recycler with spare parts and determination. Maybe he could, Wu Jin said seriously. The point is, humans have always found ways to survive when others would give up. We're creative and we're stubborn. Hyjin suddenly looked up from her equipment. Wait, I'm getting something. Everyone gathered around her station as she adjusted the controls on her jury-rigged communication system. Static filled the air, but underneath it they could hear something else. It's very faint, Hyjin said, but I think it's a signal, some kind of transmission. From where? Woojin asked. I can't tell. The signal is bouncing off the nebula's gas clouds. But it's definitely artificial. Someone is out there. For a moment, hope filled the bridge. But then So-young checked the navigation sensors and shook her head. Whatever's sending that signal is still very far away. Even if they knew we were here, it would take days for them to reach us. Days we don't have, Dr. So-min added quietly. The hope faded. But it had been real for a moment, and that was something. Woojin made a decision. Hyjin, boost the power to our beacon. Use everything we have left. Sir, that will drain our batteries completely. We'll lose life support. We're going to lose life support anyway. If there's someone out there, this might be our only chance to reach them. Hyjin nodded and began rerouting power from every system on the ship. The lights dimmed even further, and they could hear the air recyclers slowing down. But their distress beacon grew stronger. For the next 2 hours, they broadcast their location and situation to the empty space around them. They sent their story, how the Coalition mission had been betrayed, how the Vorthak had stolen the artifact and left them to die, how they had fought to survive against impossible odds. This is Commander Woojin of the Coalition vessel Stellar. Dawn, he said into the microphone. If anyone receives this message, know that humans don't go quietly into the dark. We fight until the end, and we remember who stands with us and who betrays us. When the power finally died, they sat in the growing darkness and waited. The ship was quieter now, with most systems offline. They could hear their own breathing and heartbeats, and the creaking of the hull as temperature changes made the metal expand and contract. I'm proud of all of you, Woojin said. Whatever happens next, we did our duty. We never gave up, and we never stopped being human. Dr. Seungmin distributed the last of their medical supplies to help with the oxygen shortage symptoms. This will help with the headaches and nausea, but not for long. Ji Woo had been quiet for most of the day, but now he spoke up. Commander, do you think other humans will learn what happened to us? I hope so, Woojin replied. And I hope they remember that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for people who trust too easily. So-young was looking out the main window at the stars. Do you think there are other human ships out there? Ships we don't know about? What do you mean? I mean, what if some humans didn't trust the Coalition from the beginning? What if they prepared for something like this? It was an interesting thought. Earth was a big planet with many governments and organizations. While the Coalition had been working with the official human representatives, other groups might have been making their own plans. It's possible, Woojin said. Humans have always been good at preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. As their 8th day in the void began, their oxygen levels were critically low. Everyone moved slowly and spoke in whispers to save energy. Dr. Seungmin could barely stay awake, and even simple tasks took enormous effort. But they were still alive. And they were still human. Then, impossible as it seemed, So-young's navigation sensors detected something that made her heart race. Commander, she whispered, there's a ship dropping out of hyperspace. It's heading straight for us. Woojin forced himself to focus through the oxygen deprivation fog in his brain. Can you identify it? So-young stared at her readings, not believing what she saw. Sir, it's huge. Bigger than anything in the Coalition database. And the energy signature. She paused, checking the readings again. Commander, I think it's human. The ship that appeared before them was like nothing Woojin had ever seen. It stretched across their view screen like a metal mountain floating in space. The hull was dark gray with scars from countless battles and weapons that looked decades. A head of Coalition technology bristled along its sides. That's impossible, So-young whispered, staring at her instruments. The energy readings are off the charts. This ship is 3 kilometers long. Hyjin's makeshift communication equipment suddenly crackled to life. A calm professional voice spoke in perfect Korean. Coalition vessel Stellar Dawn, this is Captain Dong Hyen of the human colonial ship Retribution. We received your distress call. Prepare for emergency rescue. For a moment nobody could speak. They had been preparing to die, and now salvation had arrived in the form of a massive human warship that shouldn't exist. How ... Taeho started to ask, but his voice failed him. Wu Jin forced himself to respond despite his oxygen-starved brain. HCS Retribution, this is Commander Wu Jin. We have 6 crew members aboard. Life support is failing, and we have maybe hours left. Understood, Commander. We're moving to intercept. Hold your position. Through the view screen, they watched the enormous ship approach them. It moved with surprising grace for something so large, and Wu Jin could see smaller ships launching from its bays. These weren't the clumsy shuttles used by coalition forces. These ships looked fast and dangerous like hunters. Commander, So Young said, I'm scanning the Retribution. The technology readings don't match anything in our databases. Their engines, weapons, shields, everything is more advanced than what we have. Where did they come from? Dr. Seung-min asked weakly. Before anyone could answer, one of the smaller ships docked with their airlock. They heard the sound of metal connecting to metal, and then the hiss of air pressure equalizing. The airlock door opened, and 3 people in advanced spacesuits entered their bridge. The leader removed his helmet, revealing a middle-aged Korean man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He looked around the bridge, taking in their desperate situation with the calm assessment of someone who had seen many emergencies. I'm Captain Dong Hyen, he said. We're here to get you out. Behind him came 2 more people. One was a woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Young Suk, and the other was a man named Jae-sung, who looked like a soldier. All of them wore uniforms that Wu Jin didn't recognize, with symbols that looked human but weren't from any Earth government he knew. Dr. Young Suk immediately began checking the crew with medical equipment that was far more advanced than anything Dr. Seung-min had ever seen. Severe oxygen deprivation, she said, but they'll recover. We need to get them to our medical bay immediately. Wait, Wu Jin said as the rescue team began preparing to move them. I need to know, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you find us? Captain Dong Hyen looked at him with something like respect. You're asking good questions, Commander. The answers will have to wait until you're safe. Right now, we need to move. They were carried to the rescue ship and then to the Retribution itself. As they passed through the docking bay, Wu Jin got his first close look at human technology he had never imagined. Everything was clean, efficient, and obviously built for war. Fighters and bombers filled the bay, all bearing the same unknown symbols. The medical bay was enormous, with equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction story. Dr. Young Suk and her team worked quickly to treat their oxygen deprivation and other injuries. Within an hour, Wu Jin felt better than he had in days. The others are recovering well, Dr. Young Suk told him. You'll all be fine, but you need rest. I need answers first, Wu Jin insisted. Captain Dong Hyen entered the medical bay, now wearing a uniform that showed his rank clearly. He was not just a ship captain, he was a high-ranking officer in some kind of military organization. Very well, Captain Dong Hyen said. But first, tell me exactly what happened to your mission. Wu Jin told the story, the discovery of the artifact, the Vorthek betrayal, being left to die in space. Captain Dong Hyen listened without interruption, but his expression grew darker with each detail. The Vorthek took the artifact? He asked. Yes, they sabotaged our ship and abandoned U.S. Captain Dong Hyen was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that chilled Wu Jin's blood. That was their mistake. Captain, please. My crew and I deserve to know who you are and how you found us. You're right, Captain Dong Hyen said. Commander, what do you know about the Human Colonial Defense Force? I've never heard of it. Most people haven't. While your coalition representatives were playing diplomat with alien species that see humans as inferior, other humans were preparing for the day when diplomacy would fail. Captain Dong Hyeon activated a wall screen that showed a star map. Red dots marked dozens of systems Wu Jin had never heard of. For the past 50 years, independent human colonies have been building a defense fleet. We've been developing technology, training soldiers, and preparing for exactly what happened to you. But why? The coalition promised peace and cooperation. The coalition promised what naive humans wanted to hear. But we learned early that most alien species in this galaxy follow a simple rule: the strong take what they want from the weak. They were never going to treat humans as equals. Wu Jin thought about Admiral Krextel's contempt, about being called short-lived fools, about how easily the aliens had decided to murder him and his crew. So you've been building warships, he said, among other things. The retribution is one of 12 dreadnoughts in our fleet. We have hundreds of smaller ships, advanced weapons, and soldiers trained in combat tactics that most aliens have never seen. And you came to rescue us because ... Because we monitor all human activities in space. When your distress signal reached us, we knew immediately what had happened. The Vorthik made a fatal error when they decided to betray and murder human beings. Dr. Young-suk approached them. Captain, the crew is stable. They're asking to see their commander. Wu Jin was taken to a room where his crew was recovering. They looked better than they had in days, but their faces showed the same confusion he felt. Commander, So Young said, these people are human, but their technology is incredible. How is that possible? Apparently, while we were trying to make friends with aliens, other humans were preparing for war, Wu Jin replied. Taeho sat up in his medical bed. War? Is that what this is? Captain Dong Hyeon entered the room. Not yet. But after what happened to you, it's inevitable. The Vorthak have shown their true nature. They've proven that they see humans as disposable. What are you going to do? Hai-Jin asked. We're going to retrieve that artifact, Captain Dong Hyeon said calmly. And we're going to make sure the galaxy understands that betraying humans comes with a price. Wu Jin felt something he hadn't expected: relief. For days, he had been consumed by the injustice of their situation, by the knowledge that the Vorthak would get away with murder and theft. Now, it seemed like there might be consequences after all. You're going after them, he said. We're going to do more than that, Commander. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when they underestimate humans. When they think we're weak, when they leave us to die in space. Captain Dong Hyeon's smile was cold and dangerous. The Vorthak wanted to see how humans handle betrayal. They're about to find out. 2 days later, Wu Jin stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching 12 human dreadnoughts drop out of hyperspace around the Vorthik fortress world of Krexmore. Each ship was as massive and deadly as the Retribution, and together, they formed a fleet that could challenge any military force in the galaxy. I never imagined anything like this existed, So Young said, standing beside him. She had recovered quickly from their ordeal, and was now serving as a liaison between the rescued crew and the Colonial Defense Force. Admiral Hyeon Woo, the fleet commander, joined them at the viewing window. He was an older man with white hair and scars that spoke of many battles. Most humans don't know we exist, he said. We've worked very hard to keep it that way. Until now, Wu Jin observed. Until now, the Admiral agreed. Your crew's betrayal changed everything. The Vorthik crossed a line when they decided to murder Coalition personnel to steal that artifact. Through the thick glass they could see the Vorthak world growing larger. It was a heavily fortified planet with orbital defense stations and patrol fleets. Under normal circumstances, attacking such a target would be suicide for any single species. But these were not normal circumstances. Admiral, Taeho said from his position at a monitoring station, the Vorthik are launching everything they have. I count over 200 ships moving to intercept us. Admiral Hyeon Woo smiled grimly. Let them come. It's time they learned what human engineering can accomplish. The battle began with the Vorthak confident in their superior numbers and advanced technology. Their ships moved in traditional formations, using tactics that had served them well. against other species for centuries. They had never fought humans who were prepared for war. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship coordinating perfectly with the others. Their weapons cut through Vorthic shields like they weren't even there. Their fighters moved with impossible speed and precision, piloted by humans who seemed to know exactly what their enemies would do before they did it. How are we this advanced? Dr. Su Min asked, watching the tactical display in amazement. The Coalition's human technology isn't anywhere near this level. The Coalition got our civilian technology, Admiral Haiyan Wu explained. We kept the military advances for ourselves. 50 years of independent research and development focused on one goal, making sure humans could defend themselves when diplomacy failed. On the display, Vorthak ships exploded in bright flashes as human plasma cannons found their targets. The alien formations broke apart as their commanders realized their weapons couldn't penetrate human shields effectively. They're trying to retreat, reported Tactical Officer Min Seo from her station. Don't let them, Admiral Haiyan Wu ordered. I want Admiral Krextel alive, and I want that artifact recovered. The human fleet pressed their attack with ruthless efficiency. They had studied Vorthic military doctrine for decades, preparing for exactly this kind of confrontation. Every weakness in alien ship design, every flaw in their tactics, had been catalogued and planned for within 3 hours. The orbital defenses were destroyed and the Vorthek fleet was in full retreat. The few ships that escaped carried news that would shock the entire galaxy. Humans were not the weak, primitive species everyone had believed them to be. Marines led by Commander Jae-sung landed on the fortress world's surface, their powered armor and advanced weapons making short work of the planet's defenses. They moved through the installation with the precision of soldiers who had trained for this mission their entire lives. We've located the artifact, Jae-sung reported over the communication system. It's in the main research facility, heavily guarded. Any sign of Admiral Krextel? Admiral Haiyan Wu asked. Found him, sir. He's barricaded in the command center with his remaining officers. Take him alive. I want him to answer for what he did to our people. Wu Jin watched the operation unfold with mixed feelings. Part of him was satisfied to see justice being served, but another part was amazed by the sheer competence of the human military forces. These weren't the fumbling representatives who struggled to get respect in coalition meetings. These were professional warriors who had been preparing for war while everyone else played at peace. Commander, Haijin said, joining the group at the observation window, I've been monitoring communications across the galaxy. Word of this attack is spreading fast. What are people saying? Wu Jin asked. They're shocked. Most species had no idea humans possessed this kind of military capability. The Coalition Council is calling emergency sessions. Admiral Haiyan Wu nodded with satisfaction. Good, it's time the galaxy understood that humans are not prey animals to be hunted and discarded. Several hours later, Commander Jae-sung reported complete success. The artifact had been recovered, and Admiral Krextal was in custody along with his senior officers. The Vorthak forces on the planet had surrendered rather than face total destruction. Bring him up, Admiral Haiyan Wu ordered. I want to have a conversation with the alien who thought he could murder humans and get away with it. When Admiral Krextal was brought to the bridge in restraints, he looked very different from the arrogant creature who had commanded respect on the stellar dawn. His yellow eyes were wide with fear, and his forearms shook as he realized he was surrounded by the inferior humans he had left to die. Admiral Krextal? Admiral Haiyan Wu said calmly. You made a serious mistake when you decided to betray Commander Wu Jin and his crew. The Vorthak tried to maintain his dignity. You cannot do this. I am a representative of the Vorthak Empire. There will be consequences. There already are consequences, Admiral Haiyan Wu replied. Your fleet is destroyed, your fortress is captured, and your empire will soon learn what happens when you underestimate human determination. Wu Jin stepped forward, looking at the alien who had condemned him and his crew to death. You called us weak. You said we were too afraid of everything. Krextal's eyes darted around the bridge. taking in the advanced human technology and the calm professionalism of the crew. "This is impossible. Humans don't have this kind of power." "You are wrong about many things," Wu Jin said. "But your biggest mistake was thinking that leaving humans to die in space would be the end of the story." Admiral Haiyang Wu activated the main screen, showing images of the destroyed Vorthak fleet and occupied fortress world. "This message is being broadcast across the galaxy right now. Every species will see what happened here, and they'll understand that the age of treating humans as second-class citizens is over." "You don't understand," Krextall said desperately. "The other empires will unite against you. They won't allow humans to become a major power." "Let them try," Admiral Haiyang Wu said. "We've been preparing for that possibility too." As if to emphasize his point, the tactical displays showed more human ships arriving in the system. Not just a few reinforcements, but entire battle groups that had been hidden throughout human space, waiting for the moment when their existence would be revealed. "How many ships do you have?" Krextall asked in a whisper. Admiral Haiyang Wu smiled. "Enough." The next few hours were spent securing the system and processing the prisoners. The rescued crew of the Stellar Dawn found themselves in the strange position of being both witnesses to history and symbols of why it was necessary. "What happens now?" So Young asked as they prepared to leave the Vorthik system. "Now the real work begins," Admiral Haiyang Wu replied. "The galaxy knows we exist, and they know we're not weak. Some species will want to negotiate new treaties. Based on mutual respect, others will want to test our strength." "And if they test us?" Wu Jin asked. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Vorthik learned today. Humans may be newcomers to the galaxy, but we're nobody's victims." As the human fleet prepared to depart, carrying their rescued comrades and recovered artifact back to human space, Wu Jin reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. They had started as naive diplomats believing in cooperation and ended as witnesses to humanity's emergence as a galactic power. The silence of space had indeed been shattered, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 month after the Battle of Crexmoor, Commander Wu Jin stood before the Galactic Coalition Council wearing a new uniform. The symbols on his collar were those of the Human Colonial Defense Force, and the rank insignia showed his promotion to Admiral. Beside him stood Captain Dong Haiyan, Admiral Haiyang Wu, and his former crew members, all now serving as bridges between the old coalition and the new reality of human power. The great council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in their assigned seats, but none of them showed the casual arrogance that had once been directed toward human delegates. The footage from Crexmoor had been seen across the galaxy, and everyone understood that the political landscape had changed forever. "Honored members of the council," Admiral Haiyang Wu began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, "we are here to discuss the future of human participation in galactic affairs." The Calathi ambassador, whose compound eyes reflected nervousness, spoke first. "Admiral, the council wishes to express its regret over the incident involving the research vessel Stellar Dawn. The actions of the Vorthek representatives were not sanctioned by this body." "With respect, Ambassador," Wu Jin replied, "the actions of Admiral Krextall were the logical result of attitudes that have been allowed to flourish in this council for decades. He didn't see humans as equals worthy of respect. He saw us as obstacles to be removed." Murmurs filled the chamber as delegates shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had expressed similar views about humans in private conversations, never imagining that those conversations might someday be held against them. So Young, now serving as a diplomatic liaison, activated a holographic display showing communication intercepts. "We have recordings of official transmissions between Vorthok Command and their representatives on the Stellar Dawn. They planned the betrayal from the beginning once they realized the artifact's value." The evidence was overwhelming. Admiral Krextall's voice could be heard, clearly discussing how to eliminate the human crew and claim the discovery for the Vorthik Empire. Other recordings showed similar discussions among Vorthik leadership about treating humans as expendable tools. "The question," Admiral Haiyang Wu continued, "is what happens next. For 50 years, humanity participated in this coalition, believing we were partners in building a peaceful galaxy. We've learned that many of you saw us as useful servants at best. The Regelian delegate, a tall being with silver skin and large black eyes, raised a hand to speak. Admiral, surely you don't hold all coalition members responsible for Vorthak actions. No, Admiral Haiyan Wu said. But we do hold you responsible for the culture that made those actions seem acceptable. How many of you spoke out when human suggestions were dismissed without consideration? How many protested when human crews were given the most dangerous assignments? How many demanded justice when human colonies reported attacks from so-called pirates that were clearly organized military strikes? The silence in the chamber was deafening. Everyone knew the answers to those questions. Dr. Sun-min stepped forward with a medical scanner and tablet. I've spent the last month analyzing the data from our rescue. Do you know what I found most interesting? The Vorthak sabotage was designed to make us suffer. They could have simply destroyed our ship quickly, but instead they chose to leave. They're alive just long enough to experience despair and fear before dying. That suggests a level of cruelty that goes beyond military necessity, the Calathi ambassador admitted reluctantly. It suggests that they enjoyed the idea of humans dying slowly in space, Dr. Sun-min corrected. That level of hatred doesn't develop overnight. It comes from years of seeing humans as less than people. Admiral Haiyan Wu activated another display. This one showing star charts with human territory clearly marked. The Human Colonial Defense Force controls over 200 systems. We have a fleet of 800 capital ships and thousands of support vessels. Our technology is, as you've seen, significantly more advanced than most coalition members possess. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't asking to be accepted as equals anymore. They were announcing that they had become a major galactic power, whether the coalition liked it or not. What are humanity's intentions? Asked the Altarian representative, a being that looked like a large flower with multiple eye stalks. That depends on the coalition's intentions toward us, Admiral Haiyan Wu replied. We want the same thing we've always wanted, to be treated with respect, to have our contributions valued, and to live in peace with our neighbors. And if that doesn't happen? The Regelian delegate asked. Te-Ho, now wearing the uniform of a Defense Force engineer, smiled grimly. Then you'll learn why humans survived on a planet where almost everything was trying to kill us. We're very good at adapting to hostile environments. The council session continued for hours, with various delegates trying to find ways to maintain their species' advantages while accommodating the new reality of human power. But the fundamental truth was unavoidable. Humans were no longer the junior partners in galactic civilization. During a break in the proceedings, Haijin approached Wu Jin with a communication pad. Admiral, we're receiving messages from across human space. The revelation of the Defense Force has caused quite a stir. Good reactions or bad ones? Mixed. Some civilian governments are angry that they weren't told about the military buildup. Others are relieved that someone was preparing for the worst. But overall, there's a lot of pride in what we accomplished. Ji Wu joined them now, serving as a security advisor for human diplomatic missions. The really interesting reactions are coming from other species. Several minor powers have already requested formal alliance discussions. They see an opportunity to align with a rising power. And the major empires? They're scared, Ji Wu said bluntly. The hegemony has started massive military exercises near their borders. The consortium is recalling ships from exploration missions to bolster their home defenses. When the council session resumed, Admiral Haiyan Wu presented humanity's new terms for participation in galactic affairs. They were not demands or ultimatums, but they were clearly non-negotiable. First, he said, human representatives will have full voting rights on all council matters, with no restrictions based on our species' age or technological development level. Second, any attacks on human civilians or military personnel will be treated as acts of war, not piracy or accidents. Third, human territory is to be respected, with no unauthorized ships allowed in our systems, and in return, the Calathi ambassador asked. In return, humanity will continue to share appropriate technologies and scientific discoveries with coalition members. We will participate in joint exploration and research missions. We will defend coalition space against external threats. As we always have. Those terms seem reasonable, the Altarian representative said carefully. They are the same terms every other major power in this council enjoys, Admiral Haiyan Wu pointed out. We're not asking for special treatment, we're demanding equal treatment. The vote was unanimous, though Wu Jin suspected that had more to do with the 800 human warships than with genuine conviction. But it didn't matter. The important thing was that humanity's status in the galaxy had fundamentally changed. After the session ended, the human delegation gathered in their quarters to discuss the day's events. The rooms were larger and more luxurious than any previous. Human delegation had been assigned, another small sign of their new status. So what happens now? So Young asked. Now we build the future we should have had from the beginning, Admiral Haiyan Wu replied. A galaxy where humans are respected as equals, where our contributions are valued, and where no one makes the mistake of leaving us to die in space? Wu Jin looked out the window at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there, the ancient artifact they had discovered was being studied by human scientists, unlocking secrets that would advance their civilization even further. The Vorthak had tried to steal it and murder them in the process, but in the end their betrayal had only revealed humanity's true strength. You know what's funny? Teho said. If the Vorthak had just shared the discovery honestly, they might have remained a major power. Instead, their empire is being dismantled, and their former territories are asking to join human protection zones. Karma, Dr. Sung-min said with satisfaction. They thought they could betray us and walk away. Instead, they taught the galaxy not to underestimate human memory and human justice. As the human delegation prepared for their return to Earth, Wu Jin reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had started as naive explorers, believing in cooperation and mutual respect. They had been betrayed, abandoned, and left to die in the cold darkness of space, but they had survived, and their survival had shattered the silence that had hidden humanity's true capabilities for so long. The galaxy had learned that humans were not victims to be discarded when convenient. They were survivors, builders, and when necessary, warriors who would fight for their place among the stars. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun, forged in the cold vacuum of space where 5 humans had refused to die quietly, and tempered by the knowledge that in a dangerous galaxy, respect was something you took, not something you were given.